What is up to all my Baggins dragons out there? Welcome to another podcast. Here's another installment of Diary of a Silver Pour, and this is going to be a good one. In this one, I actually want to talk about something slightly different that I haven't covered yet, but it is a very important part of pouring silver, and that is the whole selling, packaging, shipping aspect. So, yeah, I've actually learned some things since I started, which I had no idea about. But if you're pouring, I mean, you could just pour them and give them away and stuff to friends or whatever, or keep them yourself. But likely you're going to have requests of people asking you to sell them your product, if it's a good product that people enjoy. So, yeah, that's something you're going to have to figure out, and maybe I can provide a little bit of info on the subject to someone that's new. So, yeah, let's just get right into it. Oh, but actually first, I do want to say I had my biggest pour that I've ever done. I broke my record. So my new biggest is 20.7 ounces, which is massive. It was a really fun big Kit Kat that I poured, and I already showed it in a video and everything, but I wanted to throw that in my podcast so when I'm listening back on these I can see how I progressed. But my furnace can do up to 1 kilo supposedly, so maybe I'll try that at some point. I got to get a mold though for 1 kilo. But anyway, okay, let's get into selling. So yeah, I mean, you're gonna have to sell before you package it up and ship it and everything. So I guess we'll talk about selling first, and then packaging, and then shipping. So for selling, you got to figure out a price. And one thing with pricing is you need to kind of see, well, why are you doing it? What's the reason for you pouring silver? Is it just for fun, as like a hobby, or are you actually trying to make a living out of it? For me, it's just for funsies, definitely. I mean, I have a full-time job. I work 50 to 70 hours a week doing that. And so the whole silver pouring thing, for me, is on a pretty small scale, and I'm mostly just doing it for fun. But so you got to factor in all of the costs associated with pouring, right? So first off, you need to figure out how much you're buying your silver for. That is probably the biggest cost with pouring, is the silver. So trying to get it close to spot as you can. Right now that's around $14.25 or something like that. So if you picked up some silver at spot, that would be a great place to start. And then you got to figure out how much it costs to run your furnace, fuel for your torch. If you have an electric furnace, then the electricity, propane, then would be the propane. And then other things like your crucible breaks down. I recently bought a new crucible that was like over $30. The molds break down. Your stamping equipment breaks down. If you're using a tumbler, you have that electricity, as well as Shine Bright solution or whatever that gets used up. So there are a lot of costs associated with pouring, which you factor all those in. And there are some other costs too that I haven't really talked about. But once you have everything factored in, then you know how much it costs you to pour that one bar. And then you can figure out if you want to be paid for your time or not. And so if you are trying to make a living off of it, you'll obviously need to charge more for your time. If you're doing it just for fun as a hobby, then you could charge nothing for your time and sell it to people at cost. Obviously, there's shipping and packaging for shipping and all that stuff too, which I'm going to cover later in this. But so that is one thing you need to sort of figure out, is what price you want to set for your poured silver. You can start out at a price and obviously change it later. For me, I started out at $20 an ounce, which is, I'm slowly learning. I'm basically almost losing money off of it, because you do also got to factor in, driving to the post office, the gas that costs money, and there's other small things that you don't really think about, like the envelopes or the packaging supplies and tape and bubble wrap and all that stuff, the COAs, the paper, the ink, everything just adds up, and you don't really think about all the small things when you're starting. So But yeah, price is definitely one thing you'll have to figure out. I know a lot of people sell at like $25 to $30 an ounce, somewhere in that range. So yeah, it just depends on what it is too. If you're selling just like a 1 ounce bar, that's a lot different than if you're selling, a kilo poured skull or something like that, a sand casted figurine. That's probably going to take a lot more time. Well, obviously going to take a lot more time and tools and equipment and everything. So you can't just really have one flat price for every piece, because selling a 1 ounce is a lot different than selling a kilo. Like, let's say you poured a 1 ounce bar and then you poured a kilo bar. And if I sold my 1 ounce bar for $20, that seems about right and reasonable for me and what I'm doing. Maybe a little bit more, but the kilo, you couldn't sell that at $20 an ounce. That's crazy. No one would buy that. No one's going to pay, $650 for a kilo pour when it's just one pour, right? It almost took you the same amount of labor to do the kilo as it did to do the 1 ounce. So there's a lot of things you got to factor in with price, and you'll figure that out as you move on. I'm figuring it out as I move on. So yeah, that's one thing I wanted to talk about for sure. So, all right, pricing, and then, so selling, who are you going to sell to, right? Are you going to try and sell your bars on eBay or on Etsy, Facebook Marketplace, by word of mouth, just to friends, through PayPal and whatnot? I would highly suggest doing PayPal. It's extremely easy. If you don't want anyone to know your name, like your real name associated with your PayPal, then you will have to have a business PayPal account, which they wouldn't be able to send you money, friends and family. So you will have to pay fees. Like there's, I think, a 30-cent transaction fee, and then it's like 3% on top of that or something, I believe. So, every time you sell a bar, you're going to have to pay $1.50 or $2 fee or whatever it is. And you will take a slight hit to have a business account, but you do also have the fact that no one knows your real name. Well, I mean, some people might, but the general public maybe wouldn't. So, I would suggest doing PayPal for selling. Obviously, I have a YouTube channel. That's how you're watching this, likely. And I sell mostly to just people on YouTube, different friends and stuff like that. And I think that is a great way to reach people and to kind of get an audience for your artwork. And so, Facebook is good too for some people. I would say Instagram is even better for me. So people that have bought my bars, the majority have been people from YouTube, and then several people from Instagram, and then friends and family as well. So you kind of got to figure out who your audience is, and then, go ahead and sell them. Like I said, PayPal is what I've done for almost all of my transactions. Some have been people just mailed me silver to pay for it, or they mailed me a check and just have them leave the name line blank so you can fill in your own name. Unless you want to tell them your name, that's fine, however you want to do it. Some people, their YouTube channel is their name, so they don't mind that at all. But it just kind of depends on what you're trying to do. So, so that's kind of who to sell to and pricing and all that stuff. So once you get all that figured out, you sell it to someone, and then you got to mail it to them, right? So let's talk about packaging. So since I started, I've actually packaged every single one the same way. I haven't changed it at all, and I kind of just freestyled it. I just did what I thought would be best, and it's worked out for the most part so far. I did have one issue that I will talk about in a second. But so I bought these bubble mailers off of Amazon. They're relatively cheap. If you go buy them from like a big box store and you buy just one, you'll probably spend like $1. But if you buy a 50-pack off of Amazon, they end up coming to like, I don't know, 16 or 20 cents each. So fairly reasonable. But it's the 4x8, I believe, bubble mailers. They're yellow and the inside is padded, and those are good. So I will put the bar in actually bubble wrap first, and then I'll put it in the bubble mailer with packing peanuts. And the reason for all that is you want to get the bubble mailer at least to 3/4 inch thick so that you can send the package tracked. That's for USPS. So the cheapest way for me anyway here in the United States to mail them out is to send them through the United States Postal Service, first class shipping, tracked in those padded envelopes, and you can send them for $3.50. So that's the cheapest, best way for me to sell them that I found so far, or to ship them out. If you are shipping internationally, I've done a lot of research on that and had one issue. So for international shipping, you are going to have to fill out a customs form no matter what, and you got to put what's inside and all of that stuff. And for the most part, it's gone really smooth. You will have to put your name and address and everything. So I'd recommend getting a P.O. box, definitely, so that people just in general don't have your home address. It's just better when you're putting yourself out there and showing the world that you have money at your house. You know, a lot of people, well, I don't know, but maybe I would say the majority of the people that I've interacted with don't, you know, just in general through the general public, don't have lots of precious metals locked up at their house. And so when you kind of are on YouTube or on different platforms and telling the world, you know, hey, I've got money here at my house, you don't really want to put your address out there for people to come find you and, you know, potentially try and rob you and stuff like that. So especially if you have a massive stack, so which I don't, but you know, there are some people on YouTube that you look at their stack and you're just like, oh my gosh, that's insane. So, but anyway, so yeah, definitely get a P.O. box. And then, so back to international shipping. For me, I can ship it to any country in the world for about $14. It depends on the weight. Some of them are a little heavier, some are a little bit lighter. So, but it's around $14. And then shipping to Canada and Mexico is actually only $10 because those are our adjacent countries. So it's a little bit cheaper to ship to them. So that's kind of shipping prices. So like I said, anywhere in the United States, even Alaska and Hawaii, is $3.50. You can also send it to Guam or different, you know, U.S. controlled territories. Those are also $3.50. So that's kind of cool. Something that maybe you didn't know about. The first class shipping, you can't do it online. So if you go to USPS.com and you want to do the click and ship, they will not let you send it first class. You can only do it priority mail if you do it that way, and you're looking at like $6 or more. So I would not recommend doing that. I would recommend going into a post office, a USPS, you know, brick and mortar store, walk in, hand them the packages, and sell them or send them out that way. So you do actually have to drive to one. It does take time and everything, but that's the cheapest way to do it that I found. So that shipping, get the bubble mailers, ship them out that way. It's really easy and pretty cheap. So yeah, and then they're also tracked. So then you could give the tracking numbers to all of the people that have bought your stuff. They can see when it's going to arrive and that you've shipped it and everything. And usually those come up with insurance, I think up to like $50 for every package. So that's pretty cool. Something else that's included with the first class shipping. So that's just something cool, good to note as well. So that's shipping. Oh, and let me talk about the problem that I had with international shipping. So I sent one to the Netherlands. I've also sent them to, let's see, Australia, New Zealand. I've sent them to England, Canada. I'm trying to think. I've sent them to a lot of different countries, and I have mailed stuff to Ireland as well. Yeah, I probably need to sit down and actually look at all the countries I've sent it to because it's kind of cool. But the one I sent to the Netherlands, actually, someone there tore open the package, took the silver out, and left everything else. And then they retaped it back up and sent it to the person. So that was unfortunate. And what I ended up doing is just refunding him the money that he paid me for it. So you know, I took the hit on that. It is unfortunate, but it does happen. And the thing that went wrong is that on my U.S. Customs form, you got to put what's inside the package. and I just wrote silver bars. I was just trying to be as, specific as possible for customs, because I didn't want it to get seized and not go through and everything. And so looking back on it, I probably could have been a little bit more or less descriptive. What I've learned from other people is it's better to write metal art on the U.S. Customs form, and it should go through no problems, and people would be less likely to steal it if it just says metal art, because they don't know what it is. They might think it's iron or steel or whatever, not an actual precious metal. And, so they'll be less likely to actually steal it if you just write metal art on your U.S. Customs form. So that's what I'm going to be doing moving forward. Obviously, you could just not sell internationally if you don't want to do that. It is kind of a hassle, fill out the customs form and all that stuff. And I get that. But, I want to make my stuff available to everyone. So I am obviously selling internationally. So that is just one other thing you need to figure out. Also, as far as tracking goes for international sales, it is extremely hard to send anything tracked. So that is something that you need to make your customers aware of. It's also very expensive. I mean, you're probably looking at like $50 to send something tracked internationally, and then untracked is $14. So, you can figure out how you want to do it. Obviously, I guess if they wanted to pay it, go for it, right? Maybe you're doing a really massive pour or a bunch of bars and something they really want it tracked, and they want to cough up the extra $100 or whatever. So I would say if they want to pay it, go for it. But anyway, so that's kind of my whole spiel on selling, pricing, packaging, shipping, kind of all that stuff intertwined into one podcast. So if you are going to be selling and your poured silver, then this would be a really good one for you to listen to. If you're still listening here at the end, then you obviously listened to the whole thing. So thank you so much. I really appreciate that. But that's going to wrap it up for this podcast. I think moving forward, I'm going to do them a little bit less frequently. So maybe one every 2 weeks or something like that. We'll just have to kind of feel it out. But I'm at the point right now where one every week kind of seems like a lot. So I do want to keep making these. Definitely, they're a good thing for me to listen back on and kind of see, how I was doing everything back in the day, and when I first started and everything. So I do definitely want to keep making these. I think they're fun for me to make and listen back on myself, but also good for people to listen to as well. So thank you so much, and I will see you in the next one. Silver Baggins out.